Hi, who's here? Is anyone here? I see 3 people. Don't be shy. You can say hi. Don't be shy. I see 4 people. I see Tommy and Billy, Susie, and Ralph, Benji, Romper Stomper. Hi, Cheryl Steele. I'm glad you're not being shy. Welcome. I'm glad you're not being shy. I'm going to read from my hometown. Did you come and listen to the other chapters so far that I've done? I'm really into this book, so I thought, why don't I read it? Let other people hear too that might want to. It gives me something to do. You loved Romper Room? Yeah, that little mirror. I don't think she ever said my name. She probably did, but give it a few more minutes, see if we get any other people. I didn't expect to have too many because we have a members live going on right now, and I just got out of there. Carolyn was reading us the Juan Martinez book about Jodi Arias. She's reading different chapters. So people are still in there talking, and I wanted to read my book. Oh, and Lisa H is in there, and look, she came in here too. Hi, Lisa H. She must have felt sorry for me. I have Cheryl Steele here, Lisa. And a couple other people. Davida. The last I was here was when you were tapping alive. Hi again, my boo. Yeah, did you notice my title, A Pre-Recorded Live? Which makes no sense. I know. I just like to be silly. Wonder if Moo's going to come. This is going to be chapter 7, 200 Demons. I'm going to just wait a couple minutes to see if Kevin comes. I kind of have a feeling he might, but I don't know. Lisa, I'm telling Moo that you're here. I'm telling her Davita's here. And Cheryl. Hey, and Nicole Griffith. Give it a couple more minutes. Looks like I'm going to have a full house tonight. Hi, Moonchild Pink. Yeah, we're going to read about the House of 200 Demons. I think you guys might have heard about that. I think it made big news at one time. Moo's here too. She's in the meeting. Well, the meeting's over. The meeting part. The actual, the actual. Now they just are talking. Okay, Davida, you lay down and listen. Okay? More on Haunted Gary. Okay? Let's see. 126. I was going to do it at 1:30 my time. And see if anybody else comes. We had one come and then they left. One came in and one came out. One came back in. Could be the same person in and out, putting one foot in and then one foot out. Love to you, Davida. We all love you and are missing you, thinking about you. Know it's a hard time right now. Harder than normal. Davida, we were talking about that earlier tonight, about grief. And I'm so damn mad that you mothers and fathers go through this. I know how my heart breaks as a mother to two daughters that have each lost a child now. Never, ever, ever in my wildest dreams did I think that, my other daughter would lose a child. Yeah, No, it's not a moderator meeting, Nicole. It's the members. It's a members live. And it's just so hard to, Davida, it's so hard to get those feelings out from me. Hi, Kathy. And I'm not looking for sympathy or anything. I'm just trying to be straight up honest. Hey, LMNW50. No, it's not a moderator meeting. No, it was a members meeting. You were in there, weren't you? For the reading? But, yeah, Kathy from Texas. Hi. I don't know if I said hi, and Lori Colley. But yeah, I always have that in my heart, Davida. Always. When I lay down at night, when I lay down to take a nap. They kicked you out? Oh, well, no, they did not. Carolyn's trying to get me worked up, I bet. Right, Lisa? I know you would have told me, or Moo. Right, and it's just always there. It never, ever leaves. Because I'm not only missing them, just thinking of how it affects, my girls. And they're, the fathers, and, it just goes on and on. You know what I'm saying? Davida. There's no one to ever really talk to. I mean, you can, but, then I'll just start crying and stuff, and I get tired of that. Davida, right? And it doesn't seem real, and I know it never will seem real. Sometimes it feels like a dream, Davida. If I'm sitting here right now, like talking about how I feel like I'm going like into a dream. It's so weird. My mom, I'll think about her. No, right? Sometimes you don't think it seems real. It still doesn't seem real to me sometimes. And you work hard on that, don't you? You go with all your feelings. That's good. It's really good that you do that. But we were talking about that in Carolyn's tonight on the show, And some people were saying, "You're so strong, Carolyn. I couldn't do it." Oh, Lisa, hugs to you. You lost your mama. And I lost my mom in 2018 after Amelia, 10 months after. You know, my mom was there at Amelia's funeral. She was there at Jared's funeral. My mom buried a granddaughter, Jerry, who was 19 years old. You know, my parents have had a lot of losses too. Hey, mom of two men. But, you know, like Carolyn said, no, I'm not strong. You do what you have to do. And that's the same thing Bonnie told me. She's like, Mom, I'm not strong. She's like, I have two other kids, you know, that I have to get up for. Are you guys really, Lisa, having a mod meeting for real? Lisa? Are you? I'm going to kill her if she's pulling this now. Okay, thank you. Lady. Really, Kathy from Texas? Right, Davita. But what else can you do other than lay down and die? And when this first happened with Amelia, I did want to die. I would pray to God to give me cancer again. I would just beg him. I still remember Dave and I were talking about it one night. And I told him, I'm just ready for this to be over. And he looked so hurt. I'll never forget the look on his face. I didn't mean that against him, you know. Nothing against him. Right, Lisa? Alka-Seltzer. I take this every night. If you guys didn't notice. Big's dying not so scary because you know you will be back with them. Yes, yes, yes. Have you ever dreamt of your daughter where you swear it was an actual visit, Davita? See, right now it's just running through my head. Oh gosh, Lisa's lost her mom, Davita, her daughter. On and on and on, you know. Really, Davita? It's okay, I'll amend W50. It's all right. And was it so real? Like it really happened? And did it make you feel better? Do you, Lisa? See, I haven't dreamt of my mom. His father a month ago, and I didn't think it would be this bad. I know you said that, snow remover. Well, that's the father of your kids. Very real, Lisa. I think it is real, Lisa. I know it sure seemed like it with me. It was a year ago, October. And for weeks afterwards, I could just, oh, there was no pain. It was gone. It was such a sense of peace for weeks. Do you, Mountain Mama, two men? That was such a wonderful dream. And I told Bonnie, and I described everything to her, and she said, "It sounds like you had a visit." She goes, "I'm due for one. I can't wait for my visit." And was like, we spent, that whole night she was with me. It was just wonderful. And Davita, do you know, I always remember when my sister Becky lost her daughter Jerry, who I said, was 19. She died of a asthma attack, getting ready to move back here to Indiana from California. She died in California, in San Francisco. Um, Becky said, I remember her telling me once, months after, maybe a year after, she said it was so wonderful that God had given her a special visit with Jerry. And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, it wasn't a dream." She said, "God let me spend every minute with her that I ever had." She's like, from the minute she was born, and she's like, I got to be with her from the second she was born all the way up as she grew. She's like, I got to live all that over again with her. And I mean, she was convinced that that happened, that it was no dream. And she swears she saw my mom. Remember, Lisa, I was talking about that last month in January on her birthday. She said, Debbie, I saw mom and it wasn't a dream. And mom was standing there. She goes, and I, I looked at her. She goes, because I was so confused. And I said, Mom, you're dead. And she said, my mom just looked at her and started laughing, which my mom would do, my mom and dad, I have my weird humor from them. Both have, a lot of sense of humor. Different than mine, we're not the same, but yeah, my mom would have started laughing. I could just see her laughing. But I always think about that, Davita, that Becky got to spend that whole time with Jerry from the minute she was born and go through all those years again. So that was in that was March 31st. So that's coming up. March 31st, 1999. She would have been 20 that year in August. Really, Mama too? I saw if I saw mine also many years after during a really trying time I was going through. I have dreams of him being in witness protection. Really? That's so interesting. Wow. Well, I better start reading. We have we have a full house tonight, ladies and gentlemen. 28 people. We got a big old house. Love you too, Nicole. Sometimes you just have to let it out a little, Nicole, just to let people know that you're really broken inside, but that's that's how Davida laughs and sings and has fun, and and Carolyn the same way, and both of my daughters the same way. But it's those moments, especially when you're alone and you let yourself start to think about it, and nope, I can't go there. I won't go there. Same happened to me the night of my dad's funeral. Came home and I begged my dad to give me a sign that he was okay. He came to me that night. What a blessing. Oh my goodness, Lori. That's wonderful, Lori. Okay, snow remover. Don't work too hard, whatever you're doing. My last cruise, I dreamed right night before he was in my cabin and only be with me there. Wow. I had a dream about my grandmother after she passed. It was so real. Oh, wow. Hi, A.L. Skinner, 1981. Happy birthday to you. Right, Lisa, you do, right? You got to shut it off. We're only human. Okay, I'm going to get started. Let me put this up. And put this down. Nobody needs to see my bottom half right now. I don't even want to look at it. You guys want to hear? Thank you, Lisa. Wait, let's see. Lori says, yes, when you're grief worse at night, when we're alone in our thoughts, yes. That's when I'll start to think about my mom a lot now, too. Thank you, Lori. Do you, Lisa? You hear her when you're awake? LMNW50. She was standing at the top of the stairs in her house, and she was glowing. True story. Wow. Have you heard a loved one's voice? I heard him in my house. We didn't live here when he was alive. My goodness, see? Yeah. Nights can be the worst, yes. Yeah, when it starts to snow or something, I'll be laying there and I'll think, oh, Mom loved the snow. She loved it so much. And, just all the different things. And I just have to stop, thinking about it because it gets too sad. He called my name. I didn't answer. He said, babe, I love you. I know it wasn't a dream. My dog heard the voice and growled, really, Mama, 2 men? Yes. I heard Tanya say, Mom, like she used to when she would walk into the house. Oh my gosh, Davita. She motioned for me to come up the stairs, but you were too scared. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I would, yeah. Yes, I said, I love you. Don't go or take me with you. Aw. Of course, it was all a dream. Well, it could be a visitation, though, too. Very well could be. Trying to make you feel better. Radiant. That sounds like it was real. A visit. Really, Lori? Do you think you will again, though? Lisa, they might be, because it sounds like your mom was a lot like mine, of the thing, the humor and everything. And my mom loved her children so much. She was my favorite. Oh. What's the one about your mom? Wait, I thought that was the one about your mom. No, I'm confused. Oh, grandma. Okay. Oh, good, Lori. Yes, he would want that. You know that, especially since he loved Christmas. My mom had her TV control go missing when she lived with me. We found it in the closet and in her laundry basket. He always had her control when visiting. Control. Who had the controller? Oh, you mean she always had? Did you mean she? She always had her control when visiting controller when visiting. My mom had to tell him to stop playing with her controller. I said, "Don't make him mad. I like him visiting." You think he was hiding it? Oh my gosh. There has to be another world besides this. That is cute. There has to be, especially if you're religious. You have your own beliefs. Oh, Everly is such a doll. I saw little Apple last night. She's having a program at school, March 11th, I think it is. Um, she had to audition last week, and Nikki said that all the kids and everybody were yelling, "You're my favorite." They were all clapping, ecstatic. That little girl can sing, you guys. Amazing. And she sang, she had a little cat, Nikki said, that was like a puppet. And so she was having this cat sing Josh Groban's You Raise Me Up. And she said the principal, everybody was just ecstatic that nobody expected the voice that came out of her. And Apple's just there going, mm-hmm, yes, mm-hmm. Like, so you really did that, Apple? Mm-hmm, yes, yes. I said, well, I've heard you sing. I said, I know you have a good voice. And she's going, mm-hmm, yes, mm-hmm, yes. Mama, two men. She is priceless, Lori. Oh, wait, I missed this. Let's see. My dad and I were leaving the nursing home, and mom was following. I got halfway home, and there was a man's voice who said, don't leave, go back. Mama, two men. I also don't have rugs in my house. I always teased him, if I die and you remarry, I will pull rugs out from underneath you. Hi, Sharon Chow. Oh, yeah, little Everly is a doll. These kids today, right? And Apple has this real long hair, that's down to her butt. And she's so picky about that. And I was just taking her long ponytail, and I'm like, come on, let me cut that off. I want to see what your hair looks like. You need to have short hair. No, Grandma, no. So we were talking about Rapunzel. And I told her, well, won't be too long then. You can put your head out, your window, your hair, have it fall onto the ground, and your boyfriend can climb up and get you out. Listening from India, welcome, Delvin, Pulo. I said, that's what Rapunzel happened with her, right? Her boyfriend came up to help get her out of the tower. So I couldn't really remember. I know it was something like that. She's like, it wasn't her boyfriend. Like, I thought it was her boyfriend. No, wasn't her boyfriend. They got married. That was her husband. Oh, okay. Her husband. Okay. Yes, not her boyfriend. Okay. So we're all looking forward to going to see her March 11th. Let's see. And then what is this? When I got home, I said to my dad, I have to go back. Something is pulling me there. When I got there, I was wide awake, but I fell asleep and couldn't keep my eyes open. Wow. Okay. Well, I guess we will get to our story. Let's see. I forced them back open and saw a yellow glow and the look of peace on my mom's face. It was the most beautiful thing I ever saw. Oh, wow. That's wonderful. That gives you a good feeling, doesn't it? Gives you a sense of peace. Hi, Sherry Shirley. I hope I can, I hope I'm allowed to. These school productions, they don't want you to because of copyright and because of other people's kids, you know. I'm hope I'm hoping maybe I can at least have my phone on and have it like down, dark, and at least get her singing. She was just so cute. What did you sing? Josh Groban's You Raised Me Up. She's stuff. She just cracks me up. Her little attitude. She just, yeah. Yeah, she just thinks she's all that. They're so cute at that age. They still think, that they can be superheroes and all that. I hate when they actually get to the age where they realize that, they can't be Wonder Woman. They can't be Superman, Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I will. I'll try. They do watch for that, though. Okay. The House of 200 Demons. The 2011 film The Rite, starring Anthony Hopkins, introduced a whole new generation to the reality of possession and exorcism, as seen through the eyes of a young seminarian who regains his wavering faith by studying under a Vatican exorcist. The Rite, based on a true story, loosely follows the story of Father Gary Thomas, a Saratoga, California priest who is one of about 24 official exorcists in the United States. That is, they have been sanctioned by their bishops to perform exorcisms. In his seminal work on possession and exorcism, Hostage to the Devil, the late Malachi Martin, himself a former Jesuit priest who sat in on numerous exorcisms in contemporary North America, based his entire book on the thesis that an exorcism is the final rendezvous among the demon, the victim, and the exorcist, all of whom have been inextricably linked from before birth. Ooh. Sometimes that exorcist is not a sanctioned one. Sometimes the exorcist is called to his ministry when it is the last thing expected. Father Michael Maginot, a Catholic priest, assigned as a pastor of the Stephen Martyr Parish in Maryville, Indiana. That's right here, right by Hobart. Has, as of this writing, just finished filming a documentary of his own experience, the 2012 Gary, Indiana exorcism of a woman named Latoya Ammons. In the fall of 2011, Ammons, her mother Rose Campbell, and Latoya's 3 children moved into a small rental house on Carolina Street. The street is sleepy, at least for Gary, and the family was close-knit and seemingly well-adjusted, despite Latoya's status as a single mother trying, like so many, to make ends meet. By May, however, Latoya would have her children taken from her by Indiana's Department of Child Services, citing severe spiritual stress resulting from what Latoya and numerous others believed was demonic possession. Latoya would go on to give her story to the Indy Star, specifically to a reporter named Marissa Kiatowski. The resulting article would become the most read in the Star's history, and the family's story was one of the most notable appearances of the paranormal in American media history, even leading the nation's most popular ghost hunter to purchase the family's former home, what became known as the Demon House, or the House of 200 Demons. Latoya and her family had been in the house scarcely a month before strange events began, starting with the appearance of swarms of flies. Evocative of a horror movie, huge black horseflies suddenly infested their screened-in porch before Christmas, seemingly oblivious to the freezing temperatures. Latoya and her mother put down fly paper, swatted, and swept up the insects day after day, but the infestation persisted. Soon, one by one, other events unfolded. On one occasion, a few minutes after midnight, Rosa and Latoya both said they heard the steady clump of footsteps climbing the basement stairs and the creak of the door opening between the basement and kitchen. Fearing an intruder, the two waited with bated breath at their bedroom doors for many, many minutes, fearing even a move to call the police. After much time had passed, Latoya flicked on the lights and went to inspect the kitchen and basement. No one was there. Even after a thorough inspection and putting a lock on the door, the noise continued night after night, worsening with the sound of pounding on the door and sometimes the growling of what sounded like an animal. Rosa said she then awoke one night and saw a shadowy figure of a man pacing back and forth in her living room. Fearing an intruder, she lay paralyzed in bed until morning and then went to investigate. Though the doors and windows were still locked from the inside and nothing seemed to be missing, the family found large, wet footprints on the living room floor. Ah, hi, Tracy Claus. Hi, Annie B. On March 10th, 2012, the family was up late. There had been a death in the family, and friends were over, chatting and reminiscing into the evening hours. During the evening, Latoya's daughter complained of being pulled off the couch by an unseen force. Shortly after, one of the boys was thrown into a freezer adjacent to the living room. Later, sometime after the children had gone to bed, suddenly conversation was interrupted by a piercing cry from the girl's room, where she was sleeping with a cousin. When Rosa got to the room and switched on the light, she saw the body of her daughter drop to the bed. According to the cousin, the girl had been levitating, still asleep, several feet off the bed. Time for my drink. Let me show you a picture of the house right here, too. Love you too, Tracy. Looks like a normal little house. Doesn't it? The visitors never came back to the house on Carolina Street, and there were others who refused to enter the house, but for a different reason. The local churches, with Latoya and Rosa, begged for help, turned a deaf ear to their pleas, believing the women were imagining or fabricating their tales. Eventually, after an especially tearful visit to one small community church, a minister visited the house and declared that it was troubled by spirits. The recommended remedy was a thorough cleaning with bleach and ammonia, followed by the inscribing of crosses on all the doors and windows. Also prescribed was the anointing of the family members with oil. The first mention of demons in connection with the house seems to have been when Latoya and her mother contacted two clairvoyants who sat the women down with the news that the house was infested with more than 200 demonic spirits, that the forces were emanating from the basement, and that they must remove the children from the house at once. But with nowhere else to go, Latoya was forced to resort to Plan B. At the advice of one of the clairvoyants, she built a makeshift altar in the basement, covering a table with a sheet and placing on it a pure white candle and a statue of the Holy Family. Latoya, dressed in white and using a stick of sage, from a local occult shop, went through the house with the burning stick, reading from Psalm 91, invoking God's protection. After blessing and smudging every room of the house with the aromatic herb, she returned to the basement and placed the Bible on the rude altar open to the psalm. What followed was 3 days of peace, and then the real trouble began. Latoya went on record with the Indy Star, claiming that demons then possessed not only her, but also her 3 children, 12, 9, and 7 years old. The possession would come and go without warning, but there was no mistaking when it was happening. Their eyes bulged and flared, accompanied by loveless smiling and gruff intonations of cryptic words and phrases. They felt lightheaded and besieged by an almost crippling fatigue. Headaches were a daily problem for nearly everyone in the house. Latoya described seeing her children first engaged with and then tormented by whatever was in the house. Each child was targeted differently. The youngest began speaking of an imaginary friend who would coax him into the closet to play for hours on end, and who talked about knowing what it was like to be killed. Oh, oh. Do you, Annie P? Congratulations. That is exciting news. Yay, yay, yay. New babies are the best. Okay. Her 9-year-old once began speaking about what it feels like to be murdered. Her daughter, 12, heard a disembodied voice tell her she would not live another 20 minutes and that her family was going to be taken away. Latoya claimed her family also continued to be physically attacked in the house, her daughter assaulted by a heavy headboard, battered so hard that she needed stitches, and her younger boy flying out of the bathroom as if by some tremendous force. The attacks became so bad that some nights, for relief, the family stayed in a hotel. With their spiritual remedies seemingly exhausted, Latoya and Rosa appealed to their family physician for help. The doctor told a reporter later that even he was scared when he first heard of the events in the Emmons house. But from the notes he wrote in the family's file, delusional hallucinations, he apparently was more afraid for their mental health than any supernatural manifestations in their lives. That would change abruptly, however, with the physical visit to the doctor's office. According to the testimony of medical staff that appears in the DCS files, the 2 young boys began cursing the doctor in low, growling voices, the younger boy then being lifted and thrown against the office wall. Both boys then fainted. Someone called 911. A flurry of police officers arrived. No one quite sure what was going on. The boys were taken to a local hospital where staff literally laughed off Latoya's accounts of their troubles. When the boys woke up, the 9-year-old seemed himself, but the younger child had to be held down by 5 men. Someone, whether from the hospital or the doctor's office, called the Department of Child Services to report the situation. Soon after, a caseworker arrived at the hospital to interview the family. An exam had found the children healthy and free of bruises or other marks. Latoya had been examined by a hospital psychiatrist and found to be stable, but while the caseworker interviewed the children, the 7-year-old began growling and baring his teeth. His eyes bulged and rolled back in his head. He then attempted to strangle his older brother and to have his hands pried off pried off his brother's throat by the adults in the room. Suspecting that the children were, for some reason, performing at their mother's urging, the caseworker later brought them into an isolated exam room, joined by a nurse and their grandmother. According to the caseworker's report, which was backed up by the nurse, the younger boy immediately began to growl again before telling his brother, "It's time to die." At the same time, the older boy began thrusting his head into his grandmother's stomach, at which point Rosa grabbed his hand and began to pray. It is what happened next that made the world take notice. With a weird grin, the older boy walked backward several steps and up the wall to the ceiling, glided across the ceiling over his grandmother, and landed on his feet, never letting go of his grandmother's hand. The caseworker told the Star reporter that she and the nurse ran out of the room and then called security. Yeah, I think I'd be doing that too. I'd be heading out. Mom, I'm too mad. Okay, very scared, turning on lights. Oh, how exciting, Annie B. Yay! Hi, Karen H. Let's see. The caseworker also said she believed an evil influence might be at work in the lives of the Ammons family. Though the youngest boy spent the night in the hospital with LaToya, the next day with his 8th birthday, and the next day was his 8th birthday, and the family returned with cake and small gifts. After the makeshift party, DCS informed LaToya that her children were being taken away from her without a court order. The caseworker had written in the report that all of LaToya's children were under spiritual and emotional distress. LaToya was devastated. After all the family had fought through, the idea of her being suspected of abuse or neglect was too much to bear. The children, too, were hysterical over the idea of being separated, but nothing could be done. Incredibly, however, the family had been at the hospital long enough to catch the attention of the hospital chaplain, and on the morning of April 20th, 2012, he put in a call to Father Michael Maginot at St. Stephen Martyr Parish in nearby Maryville, requesting something extraordinary, an exorcism for a young Gary boy. Though skeptical of the claims, Maginot agreed to visit the family after Mass that weekend, and on April 22nd, he arrived as promised at the house. Maginot was a believer in demons, but also sensible and forthright. He told LaToya and Rosa that the first thing they needed to do was rule out any natural causes for what was happening. For the next 2 hours, he listened as the two women laid out the history of the case in grim detail. During the interview, the bathroom light took to flickering on occasion, stopping each time the priest walked over to investigate. Blinds on the kitchen window, too, swung back and forth as they talked, and wet footprints appeared in the living room. At one point, LaToya complained of a headache, prompting Father Maginot to place a crucifix against her forehead. Her body began to convulse uncontrollably. After a meticulous 4-hour interview, Maginot said he was convinced the family was being tormented by demons, but also that he believed there were ghosts, human deceased entities, in the house. He went from room to room, blessing each with holy water and reading passages from the Bible as he walked. As he stood to leave, he strongly encouraged Latoya and Rosa to leave the home. But less than a week later, the two women were back at the house to let the case manager check the condition of the home. The caseworker arrived with a police officer she'd asked to accompany her and two other officers who'd asked to come out of curiosity. The group went from room to room, inspecting first the main floor and its three bedrooms, living room, and bath. The kitchen door, where the first sounds had started, led to the unfinished basement with concrete floors. Directly under the stairs, however, was a dirt floor. The concrete around it was jagged, as though it had been broken. This is giving me the creeps right now. Latoya told police that the demons seemed to originate from that patch of dirt. One of the officers present was a Gary police captain who went on record saying that he came to believe in demons after visiting the quote-unquote demon house. During the visit, an officer's audio recorder malfunctioned. The power light flashed to indicate the batteries were dying, even though the officer had placed fresh batteries in the recorder earlier that day. Another officer recorded audio, and when he played it back later, heard an unknown voice whisper, "Hey." Oh, hey. It whispered, "Hey." The officers also took photos of the house. In one photo of the basement stairs, there was a cloudy white image in the upper right-hand corner. When an officer enlarged the photo, the cloud appeared to resemble a face. The enlargement also revealed a second green image that police say looked like a woman. Ugh. Thank you, Tracy, but you know I don't. But that's sweet of you. The best channel is Mommy Ramblings. Hers is my very, very favorite. Someone playing the flute. Well, it might. Dave's got the TV on. You know, they're playing music on there. And the show he's watching. You're freaking me out now. The Gary police captain said photos he snapped with his cell phone also seemed to have strange silhouettes in them. The radio in his police-issued Ford malfunctioned on the way home. Later that night, the garage at his Gary home refused to open, even though the power was on everywhere else. On the way home, the driver's seat in his car also started moving backward and forward on its own. Oh. When he took it into the dealership, the mechanic told him the motor on the driver's seat was broken, which could have caused an accident. In April 2012, DCS petitioned Lake Juvenile Court for temporary wardship of the three children. The request was granted. An investigation had found that Latoya had neglected her children's education by not having them in school regularly. The finding was not just a symptom of the events on Carolina Street. Records showed that the same situation had been recorded in 2009, 2 years before the family had moved into the demon house. The older children were sent to St. Joseph's Carmelite home in neighboring East Chicago, while the younger child was sent to another live-in facility for psychiatric evaluation. There, a clinical psychologist found him stable and coherent, except when he talked about demons. It was only then that his talk became illogical. He tended to change the subject, and his stories varied each time he was asked about the events in the house. Wright believed the now 8-year-old did not suffer from a true psychotic disorder. She wrote in her report that the case was one of delusion instilled in the boy by his mother. The psychologist at St. Joseph's had the same diagnosis. Latoya had presumably influenced the older children into believing the family was possessed. The recommendations set by the Department of Child Services included a stipulation that discussion of demons and being possessed not be part of their conversations. They were also instructed to see therapists on a regular basis. Interestingly, Latoya was also instructed to find work and other housing due to the paranormal activity at the current house, which police and DCS officials continued to investigate. Rosa, Latoya, and the three officers from the initial visit returned to the Demon House on May 10th, 2012. They were joined by Father Maginot, two Lake County officers with a police dog to help determine whether a body might be buried in the house, and a different caseworker who had volunteered to take the original worker's place because she didn't want to go back to the house. I don't think I would want to either. They'd be like, no, you go on this case for me. The group went down into the basement, where the caseworker saw a peculiar substance dripping from the wall. Touching it, the group found it slippery and tacky. Father Maginot told police he wanted to investigate the dirt floor under the stairs for either a human body or a pentagram or personal objects buried there, which could indicate a curse and, consequently, a demonic presence in the house. Police said the dirt area looked like the concrete might have been removed specifically to bury something. And with this added information, they began to dig. They unearthed a curious variety of objects: a pair of boys' socks from another era, devoid of nylon or other synthetics, a decorative pot with a lid, a woman's fingernails, a heavy weight as from a grandfather clock, and a woman's slip, again devoid of synthetic fibers. After unearthing what Maginot describes as 3 layers of objects, the officer shoveled the dirt back in, and the priest sprinkled the area with blessed salt. Back upstairs, the caseworker and Latoya began to complain of maladies. Latoya felt an intense pain in her head, and the caseworker soon complained of pain in her finger. The skin on her digit had turned pale and felt tingly as if constricted. She then said she was having a panic attack and needed to go outside. I can hear that. You're scared? It is spooky. The police captain left soon after, while the others stayed to continue their investigation of the home. It was at this time that they noticed the same slippery substance dripping from the blinds in a bedroom. More than a month earlier, Latoya and her mother had blessed the doors and windows with olive oil at the suggestion of a church worker, but the oil never dried and almost seemed to increase in substance and quantity. Unable to determine the source of the substance coming from the blinds, Maginot and the police officer wiped it off and closed the door to the room to see if it would reappear on its own, suspecting Rosa or Latoya of placing it there. When they returned about a half hour later, the substance had reappeared. Father Maginot told the officers that such unknown substances were often found as a physical manifestation of demonic possession. No, but I do hear the music occasionally from the TV. They always play music in TV shows. It was this manifestation, on the heels of all he'd seen and heard, that led Father Maginot to write to Bishop Dale Meltzer and request permission to perform an exorcism. Element. Maginot would attest that the Bishop of Gary had never sanctioned an exorcism in the diocese during his more than 2 decades of service in his position. True to form, the bishop denied Maginot's plea as well, directing him to seek the guidance of other priests who had performed exorcism. Doing so, Maginot said his advisors told him to do a minor exorcism on Latoya. Hi, Auntie Cuckoo. Oh, prayers for your surgery in the morning. Hope all goes well. I'm sure it will, Auntie Cuckoo. And I hope you have a speedy recovery, a full recovery. He arranged to perform a series of powerful blessings on the house and then to perform a minor exorcism on the woman. The case manager and 2 police officers attended the exorcism rite, during which the caseworker claimed to feel something unseen in the room. That same caseworker told a reporter that after the visits, problems attended her constantly everywhere she went. In a few weeks, she was burned in a motorcycle accident, broke her ribs jet skiing, and broke her hand and ankle in separate incidents. Tracy Claus, stop. Just being silly. Because when you're talking to Carolyn, you're saying you got the best channel. I love you the best, Carolyn. And you come over here and say, I have the best channel. You love me. Well, we know your game. Just did your hair. Got to look good in that surgery. Your recovery. Working from directives that had been given to him from sanctioned exorcists in the Archdiocese of Indianapolis and Chicago, Maginot gave Latoya an important directive to identify the names of the demons who had been attacking her family. In an exorcism, it is very important for the identity of the demon or demons to be revealed. Maginot told Latoya to think about the things that the demon or demons had done and to find their names based on the harm they had caused. Latoya claimed that while she searched on the internet for the names, the computer kept freezing and turning itself off, and that she felt nauseated and dizzy. But she persevered, eventually finding names that felt right to her, including the names of demons assigned to harm her children. After hearing the names, Father Maginot revealed to Latoya that he had received the bishop's permission to exorcise her with the authority of the Catholic Church. 3 major exorcisms were required to complete the task. The first 2 were done in English, the third in Latin. It seems like it has to be in Latin, right? In order for it to be legit. In attendance were 2 of the police officers who had been involved in the case since the first home visit to offer both emotional and physical support in case the superhuman strength common in exorcisms became an issue. During the first 2 exorcisms,
Latoya convulsed and thrashed, falling asleep at times, which Father Maginot believed was a way for the demons to lessen the power of the ritual. She would not speak normally, but only in satanic chants. But the hold seemed to lessen by the end of the second attempt, after which Father Maginot went on retreat. What do you guys think? Should I, after the story's over, should I drive over there into Gary? It did give the address. Well, it's on Carolina Street. I'm sure I could look it up, find the exact address. Drive over there. What do you guys think? Go there in the dark. It's 2:30 a.m. here. Yes? No? Tracy. Lisa H is just giving hearts. Lisa H kind of wants to see. No? Well, let's see. Let's see what happens. May not be that scary. David killed me. There's no way he would let me. He's sitting in there. Be like, I know you ain't going nowhere. Have him go with one of his guns. Did you see that? Us heading over there. We get spooked and Dave's shooting. Oh boy. Now let's see. Okay. Maginot told Latoya to think about the things that the demon or demons had done and to find their names based on the harm they had caused. Latoya claimed that while she searched for a name... Oh, okay, I already read that. Okay, she persevered, eventually finding names that felt right to her, including the names of demons assigned to her children. After hearing the names, Father Maginot revealed to Latoya that he had received permission. Okay. 3 major exorcisms were required to complete the task. The first 2 were done in English, the third in Latin. I already read that. The 2 police officers there. She okay? Yeah. Okay. Okay, she would not speak normally, but only in satanic chants. But the hold seemed to lessen by the end of the second attempt, after which Father Maginot went on retreat. By the time of the final exorcism in June 2012, the police no longer came. Father Maginot asked his brother to assist. The final exorcism was in the church's native tongue, and after some minor convulsions during the event, Latoya once again fell asleep. But this would be, at least for now, the end of her possession. She regained custody of her children in the fall of 2012, taking them to their new home in Indianapolis, where she'd moved with her mother during the DCS investigations. Go there to stay overnight. Right. I would too, Element. Oh, gosh. I talked with Father Maginot in the spring of 2015, 3 years after the events in the Ammons house. I found out that he was not appointed exorcist of the diocese of Gary when he found himself ministering to the troubled family of Latoya Ammons. This job had found him, but like most priests, He was no stranger to the paranormal. Many priests perform a surprising number of routine house blessings to quell activity, especially that encountered after deaths in a home, especially that encountered after deaths in a home or after a move or remodel. Father Machinal doesn't typically see spirits when he finds himself ministering to those with disturbances in their homes, but this time he says was different. Jesus is in her home, right, Tracy? Mama's too, and that is so funny. He says, I did witness things, and in fact, it was things Latoya and her mother were telling me would happen in the house. And then when I was there, they happened. I would witness them. I knew these things had something to do with Latoya's ex-boyfriend. Something struck me strange about him. Whenever I would talk about him, things would happen. Ooh, that's creepy. And I thought, what is the involvement here? Who is involved here? The children? But then, when I pressed a crucifix to Latoya's forehead and she began to convulse, I knew it was about her. Father Maginot nods to the popular cultural perceptions about possession as seen in The Exorcist, but says this too was different. You normally think it's something you brought on yourself, an Ouija board, some occult thing. But when it was shown that this was something that happened to them, we were baffled. Latoya was never involved in the occult, never dabbled in anything, but I did think something was brought in with the boyfriend. The last time he was there, things had gone up to a level where it almost drove them out of the house. Ooh, I can believe that, you know? Do you think? Because look at all these boyfriends that kill these children. The girl, you know, and you'd swear a lot of them are demons or possessed. Latoya had been seeing the man for some time when she discovered he was married. She broke it off, but he continued to pursue her, even finding out the location of her new home on Carolina Street and showing up at the door, sometimes trying to see her children while she was at work. Latoya had found out about the man's wife from his wife, who called her one afternoon to confront her. Latoya was dumbfounded, but assured the woman she wanted nothing to do with an adulterer. But before she could hang up, Latoya heard the woman's last words. You will regret ever messing with my husband. Few people, even Catholics themselves, are aware that the church believes in the reality of curses, not the mere power of suggestion, but that people and families can be actually and deeply affected by powerful forces deliberately affixed or sent to them to wreak havoc on their lives. According to the church, human souls don't do the bidding of mortals. I just swear I thought I heard you guys moving in the computer. Of course, I didn't hardly sleep, but like 2 or 3 hours last night. So that could be it. But I could swear I just heard something moving in this computer
like a knocking. Tracy. Sweet Jesus. Oh, I didn't see anything, but I heard something. What'd you see? I didn't see nothing. I saw nothing. I heard something knock. I'm sorry. Oh, I did just see a light. Auntie Cuckoo. Making coffee, but still listening. Freaking you out, Annie B? I'm getting freaked out. What are you talking about? I'm the one here. Did my camera go in and out? Because I heard something. Are you joking? Please be joking. You go in and out. No, I just thought I saw something crawling. I think you're joking about that. My cats aren't right here. No, I'm the only one here. Lexi's in bed down the hall. Rumbled? Please look behind you. Stop. Okay, stop. Oh, let's see. According to the church, human souls don't do the bidding of mortals, only of God. It is demons alone that are on call for the whims of the living. And if a person or family is run down without a firm foothold in faith and prayer life, distracted by the business of living or struggling to live, or even merely physically debilitated, the results of a curse can be devastating. No, it isn't moving. Stop. Lisa, quit. Stop it. Stop. I'm supposed to be scaring you guys. Crucial to a curse is the cursed object, a piece of hair, a photograph of the person, clothing, a ring, eyeglasses, or any other important and intimate item inextricably connected to the target of the curse. It is this object over which the curse is made. In the case of the Ammons, and in the case of the Ammons family, there were many possibilities. Father Maginot remembers, we felt there must be some sort of curse because there were many things that were strange. The first time the boyfriend moved in with her, he asked for her underwear. Oh my gosh, is this guy's name Glenn? Please tell me this wasn't Glenn. Oh, please. Glenn? Mom of two men. This is gonna turn out to be Glenn. Lisa, quit. You hear that knocking? That was Dave's. That was the movie. Oh, I am gonna freak out if this is Glenn. Glenn, we might be getting some info here on you. Okay, the first time the boyfriend moved in with her, he asked for her underwear. She asked, what for? He told her it was to remember this wonderful moment or some such thing. But also at that time, and she never thought about it until much later,
She was missing a pair of Air Jordans, expensive shoes she had bought, and it was a big deal. And she thought one of the kids took them or was wearing them and had messed them up, but they never could find them. Also, around the same time, Latoya wanted to have a family picture in the living room, and she was looking through the stack of pictures. Now I keep thinking I'm seeing stuff. If Tashi panties end up in this story, I am out of here. Oh my God. The ghost was a basketball player. Oh, that was a good one, though. Mom of two men. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Okay, also around the same time, Latoya wanted to have a family picture in the living room. And she was looking through the stack of pictures she had and saw this photo, and photos of the kids and such were missing. She saw that this photo and photos of the kids and such were missing. She never found where those pictures went. I asked Father Maginot about what he and the police and the social worker found under the stairs when they dug under the dirt floor and what he thought it all meant. He said that he believed these objects may have been a part of necromancy, the attempt to conjure up the dead, and that he felt they were not related to the Ammons case, but likely the reason for the ghost in the house. I wonder if Father Maginot had experienced any residue from the exorcisms, what paranormal investigators often call attachments, perhaps some energy or entity that was making itself known to him at home or in his church. He said, after the exorcism, and also towards the end of it, at our parish, we had several storms come through at that time when the last exorcism had been done. One one was after Mass on Saturday, and it knocked out all the lights in the church, but they were able to get the lights back on before our 9 o'clock Mass on Sunday. The second time was the longest, around the 4th of July. This was right about the time of the final exorcism. We were doing the exorcism in the church, and Latoya's mouth was moving, but nothing was coming out, and the lights went out. Later, she told me that she was trying to tell me that something was trying to lift her up. The demon may have tried to gather the energy to do that. They weren't able to do it because we were in the church. After the 4th of July, we had another storm come in, and it knocked out our power for more than a day. It was about 90 degrees at the church, and my rectory was horrible. Trying to sleep at night at about 85 degrees at night. But then they got the power back on 30 hours later. Then another storm came and knocked out the power in the church. We had Mass by candlelight, and we brought out these candelabras and lit all the candles. That was beneficial because the week after that, right in the middle of Mass, the power went out again. And so we brought in the candelabras and lit the candles again without missing a beat. We never had a loss of power like that before. Never. The national fervor that followed the release of Jay Anson's novel, The Amityville Horror, in 1977 remains matchless in American paranormal history. The closest thing to it before this time was the very regional frenzies that broke out in Adams, Tennessee, on the Bell family farm during the reign of terror of the so-called Bell Witch, and to much more important extent in Salem, Massachusetts in 1620.
Someone hold your hand.
There were two other events. These two other events paled in widespread renown, of course, in comparison to the former. By the time the Amityville troubles became national news, the nation of Salem and of John Bell had become a celebrity-studded media paradise. There have, however, been only minor appearances of the paranormal in modern American history besides Amityville. There was Ted Serios, the Chicago bellman, who in the early 1960s appeared on numerous television programs attempting to demonstrate his claimed ability to imprint Polaroid film with images from his mind. In the 1980s, a 14-year-old Columbus, Ohio girl named Tina Resch became briefly famous as a poltergeist agent and went on to go to prison for the alleged murder of her toddler many years later. Oh, Mama Two Men, that's scary. Hey, Carolyn, Mama Ramblins. By the year 2000, the internet allowed those interested in the paranormal to create and populate their own worlds, both locally and through web forums and on social media, and haunted places have come to be reported either through these outlets or on paranormal themed television programs, not in the news. Paranormal activity has, since then, mostly occurred under the radar of the mainstream news media, with one exception, the case of Gary, Indiana's Demon House. Not long after Marissa Kwiatkowski's story broke, the house was purchased. This is what Bonnie was telling me about when I bought this book. The house was purchased by Zach Bagans, the star of the immensely popular Travel Channel series Ghost Adventures. I knew Tracy. I see. Baggins, a tight-shirted, muscular, spike-haired young man who now lives in Las Vegas, began as a film student and ended up a celebrity when his 2007 documentary about a team of 3 ghost hunters became an overnight sensation. Together with Nick Groff and Aaron Goodwin, Baggins has filmed 8 seasons and counting of Ghost Adventurers, and he now serves as executive producer and enjoys the adoration of millions of fans around the world who, despite criticism of the show's alleged fakery and sensationalism, continue to tune in. In 2014, Baggins announced that he had been living in the house and filming a documentary about the house and the case, scheduled for release in October 2015. Though this author has worked with Baggins on several occasions and is close friends with the show's writer and historian, Baggins gave no response to requests for an interview, a tour of the house, or even a comment. Only time will tell what has gone on since the Demon House became Baggins' most sensationalized ghost adventure. Len Miller and J.C. Rositas, the former Gary police officer and both esteemed paranormal investigators, were the first to offer investigative services to the family during the time before the events had escalated to their most dramatic, and when police in the city were baffled about what was happening. Their offers were refused. After the story broke, next came Bob Jensen, founder of Ghostland Society, located in Wisconsin. Jensen and his team traveled to the house on three separate occasions, finding no evidence whatsoever of paranormal activity. When asked why they kept going back, he explained that it is the team's standard practice when children are involved to make absolutely certain there is no danger to the family. David Scott and John B. Stevens of the Paranormal Research Group, Illinois Paranormal Research Association, IPRA, Strong, are videographers who film an award-winning internet show called Believe, an online paranormal experience. A few days after the appearance of LaToya's story in the Indy Star, the pair traveled to Gary to attempt to speak to the current owners. Though no one seemed to be at home, they took some film footage and recorded for electronic voice phenomenon using a quote-unquote ghost box. A ghost box, ghost radio, or spirit radio is an AM or FM radio that has been built or hacked to constantly scan through the band at a speed that renders the actual sound bites unintelligible. Many investigators believe that disembodied energies use these sound bites to form words, essentially allowing investigators to communicate with spirits in real time. When John was recording, a voice on the box called out, "John!" And later, several different voices cried out, "David!" When asked whether one of the voices speaking had possessed LaToya Ammons in the house, a male response claimed flatly, "I did." Voices also claimed that there was a human buried in the house, and another voice said it did not know Christ. During our talk, I asked Father Maginot with a smile if he is now the go-to exorcist for the diocese of Gary, and whether the diocese has been slammed with requests for exorcisms since the Ammon story broke. Father Maginot is so good-natured, and he laughs readily, but he doesn't respond that way to this question. Rather, he says, very seriously, there is one in Gary right now, and it is a very sensitive situation. It involves an expectant mother. She is about to give birth, but I think the bishop wants someone experienced. The Indianapolis diocese has an exorcist, and the bishop talked to him, but I think also he may be shopping it around for the right person. It has to be the right person. Hi, Aunt She. I want to read this other one too because I want to hear it. You guys don't have to listen if you don't want. Make sure it's not too long though. No, it isn't. It's pretty short. Too short. Dang it. Lisa Nia. Carolyn, are you still here? See, I do have my medallion. Been blessed by a priest. Hi, Nurse of all trades. very short chapter. The Lost Boy of Small Farms. Chapter 8. Between Chase and Burr Streets, right off Highway 8094, on the west side of Gary, is an enigmatic. Oh, here we go. My eyes are getting tired and I can't pronounce. Enigmatic section of town known as Small Farms. So the west side of Gary, that'd be way over that way. We're the east. Yeah, we're to the east. Hold on a second. Just 1 second. Reading ghost stories. Look, Dave. Haunted Gary.
Haunted Gary.
Yeah.
Geez.
Would you want to hop in the car right now? We'll run to a place called the House of 200 Demons.
No,
You sure?
I don't like those.
That's the one thing that you always do get nervous about. It's so cute. You'll always say that. I don't like ghosts. He never likes to talk about them or anything. He gets really, yeah, he'd probably start laughing. Oh, I don't get scared. But he does. He does. Thank you, Aunt She. I don't know, LMNW50. Lisa, are you guys still in the Zoom? I wonder if, is Carolyn sleeping? I'm wondering. Now my ear, back of my ear is itching. Never done that before. What's going on? Scooter, just listen to it. But never go on to play. Don't invite the bad souls to hang out with you. No, she isn't. What, Lisa? She's not here. Are you guys still in the Zoom, though? Is the Zoom still going on? I have a feeling she timed you out accidentally in her sleep. So you guys are out of that meeting? No, it's not a meet. You know what I'm saying.